Battle Line podcast. This is actually the first episode Chris is back on in a while. First after the Sean Ryan show, which we'll get
Huh?
into, that plenty of you checked out. Literally like a million plus people have checked out. But
Huh.
before we get into this episode with our friend Jason Piccolo, always great to have on the show. Ned has been with us for quite a few years now, and they have the best CBD on the market. When I talk to people about CBD who actually know CBD, they'll
Yeah.
often say all of that stuff is in China because I'll say how, for example, like the Delta 8 gummies and all that, which I've never tried because that actually does get you high, unlike the stuff Ned puts out, that it's all made in China. And they'll say, well, all CBD is made in China.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, I actually know a company and work with a great company that makes CBD that's grown in Colorado. And man, they've grown on to so much success now, actually being purchased by a larger company that we're still working with. And it's always a
Yeah.
blessing to have Ned on board. So whether it's their mellow magnesium, their CBD, their brain blend, their relief balm during this time of year, like I always say, my joints tend to lock up and I get stiff. That stuff comes in very handy. It's the best relief balm out there. So you can check it all out when you go to helloned.com/battleline. That's HELLONED.com/battleline, or just use the code battleline at checkout. Great company. We love that we continue to work with them. So give them a look. And with that, we'll get right into everything.
From Kansas City to New York City, from planet Earth to extraterrestrial life in space, a podcast with no equal, engaged in unconventional warfare through your speakers and headphones. This is a show about embracing the suck, conquering your demons, and finding God in the face of adversity. Chris Tonto Peranto,
Switch is on, motherfucker, I'm gonna shoot you in the face.
Ian Scotto.
Ian and I have been dating for a long time.
You are now tuned into the Battle Line Podcast.
The switch is on, Battle Line Podcast, and this has been an interesting start of the year. You were on vacation. I
Yeah.
was
Long
on
time.
vacation in Hollywood, California, in Los Angeles, and then all of this stuff happened, which we'll get into. But while I was in Los Angeles and while you were on vacation, we were waiting for months for this Sean Ryan interview to come out, and it finally got released. And I knew the feedback would be tremendous, but it's been overwhelmingly tremendous.
I didn't know. I don't pay attention to the numbers. I didn't know it had that many views.
But you even said you got texts, you got all types of
Well, I
things.
got texts, but yeah, when you said a million, that's cool, man. It's been a while. I think it is weird, and I think people, the ebb and flow of all this, because there's a lot they're just finding out about me and Tig and Oz and Boone and 13 Hours now. And it's because Pablo used to tell me, Schreiber, he would say, hey man, there's going to be ebb and flows. There's going to be like where people forget about you for years, and then all of a sudden something pops up and it's like it's brand new. I was like, that is the weirdest. It's like it's just how it goes. Because it was, I said the first interview I did at Brett Bear with the Brett Bear special had 1.7 million views. The next interview, the real interview with Bill O'Reilly, which sucked. It was 5 minutes. You guys can watch it. It was terrible. We didn't get to say a word. Bill O'Reilly spoke the whole time, but that was during his heyday. That had 4 million views. And so you're like, oh man, you just on Sean Ryan. It's going to be big. It's like, I mean, I just want to say, man, I've been through that before, and I love Sean
I
for putting me
truthfully
on.
though, I think this will be bigger when all is said and done
And
because it just continues to grow from there.
and the platforms are there now. Where in the past it was you had to go. You were in the biz. You had to
Yeah.
go in the studio. You had to fly out to do the studio, or if you wanted to do
Well, you
something
did
remote.
technically. You did fly
Yeah, I
out for
did.
this as
I
well.
did fly. Everything that I had to do. Well, Sean's I drew. I was speaking in Nashville already. It wasn't
Yeah.
just to go do it with Bill O'Reilly or Hannity or coming even to Sirius. It was No, we don't do remotes. You have to actually come and fly into the studio. So, I'm flying to New York all the time and be there for a week and do all the rounds. And but what I guess it's a positive because what's cool is that this has brought new people in that maybe didn't know about Benghazi or didn't know about Roan or Bub or didn't know about the story, and it's brought them into it. So it's given a new life to the story, not to myself, not to Tig, not to Oz, and I don't want to speak for them, but I don't think they feel that way either. It brought people new vision to Tyrone and his sacrifices, to Libya itself, to Benghazi in itself, even the political ramifications that came around it, and that's cool, dude. That is, to me, that is super cool. And like I said, Pablo was right, Schreiber was right. He's like, man, it's going to go and it's going to sound like it's going away, and then it'll come roaring back, and then it'll go. And he was right, man.
Well,
And,
it
and
makes
I think that's pretty. I think it's pretty awesome.
yeah, I was just gonna say it makes sense though because you have to keep in mind. So right now, Sean Ryan actually, like in recent weeks, has literally been the number one
Yeah,
podcast, like on Apple Podcasts, on
and he should be.
Spotify.
He's really good. No, he's
For
talented. He should be.
For
Yeah,
sure. So with that though, you got to keep in mind there's a lot of people who are checking out Sean Ryan who are maybe 20, 25. If
it's
you're
true.
20 or 25, you didn't live through the news cycle of Benghazi. So it
Yeah,
wasn't shocking to me that there were comments saying, I never knew that this happened. And it's not like, oh, you're living under a rock. If you're 25 years
no,
old, how would you really know this happened? It's not that's
you're
not in your time span.
you're right. You were 13 to 15 years old, worried about a lot more important stuff than that, about just being a kid. And but that is why it is cool, and it's wonderful. I feel like it's a blessing that I'm getting to experience that, and just personally because you do have good different feelings. I do have different feelings. Now I have another memory I can share. It's like, wow, man, it came out around Christmas time, which was super cool as well. Which John is tremendous. His marketing team's tremendous. I don't think that was haphazardly planned. I think it meant to, hey, New Year, let's roll this, and it came out at a great time, and yeah, just to feel the blessing of being a part of a reemergence or resurgence of the memories of Tyrone and Chris and Sean, that is awesome. And to have it done by Sean, and for those that don't know, Sean and I actually did work together for many years. He won't say because we weren't best buddies or nothing. We were with the agency together. Um, and so to have somebody come back into my life that we got to share stories about guys we work with and a couple buddies that we lost while we were working. That would even made it more special because the behind the scenes stuff where I'm walking around and he's like, "Oh my gosh, that's Gabe's. That's a guy we used to call Pinball. He passed away. Sad, but Pinball was awesome. Mentor to he was a very good friend to Sean. He was a great GRS guy to me, and he was a young guy that I mentored when he was coming in, and he passed. And seeing Gabe on, I'm like, man, that's Ruffins. Yeah, yeah, of course we did, man. I know Pim. And just to have that camaraderie back, like being hanging out with an old dude, not hanging out with Sean Ryan, but hanging out with an old buddy. That was super cool. And talking about Eric Sachs, another guy that was he was Sachs was both mine and Sean's team leader, and talking about Eric and the tremendous person he was, former DevGru SEAL Team 6 guy. It was awesome. So just just having that, all of it come together well, and then having the viewers and having a great response to it. Yeah, it's another memory that I can put on a long line of positive memories that I'll remember when I'm 70. And if me and you are ever talking, and if I'm still alive, and you're like, hey, remember that? I will. I'll be like, yeah,
And I mean,
I
you
remember.
won't really have to remember it because you just go on YouTube and it lives on forever,
And it lives on
So
forever. Now, so thank you to Sean and his team. They are professionals, constant professionals. Sean is very talented at what he does, but also I appreciate his friendship and him being patient with me because we did try to do this years ago, and I just won't travel for interviews. And a lot of people will say, "Well, the hell with you, Tano. We don't want you on." Okay, that's fine. I don't need to go on. Sean he was just cool. I was like, dude, I'm in town. You want me to come and record? Yeah, come on in. And that was just a few months ago. He didn't have to do that, and he did, and that says a lot about his integrity and character. So, and again, the episode was extremely well done, and all your responses out there. Thank you all, guys. That meant a lot. I know it meant a lot to Cheryl, Ty's mom, and I know it meant a lot to Glenn's family as well.
yeah. Yeah, it's a great response, and I think he knew it would do well as an episode, and it did do well. And he's also had so many episodes recently that have been doing huge, huge,
Oh
huge
yeah,
numbers. I mean, especially the stuff now related to this Tesla. And then I actually was just on Twitter because I was talking about this with you, or X. It's still hard not to call it Twitter,
yeah.
but I was saying how, man, like I didn't even watch that whole episode, to be honest, yet. And I know it's not another 5 hour episode, but that was a really big one, is the stuff going on with the Cybertruck and the
Yeah.
explosion. And all these people on X just went on the attack of Sean with really no information to just call him out. And I'll just address this real quickly, just since we're on the topic of Sean. So this guy, Ryan Macbeth, went out of his way to attack him and said, like, oh, does Sean just not vet anyone who goes on his show? And I saw that he apologized today. And I think Sean handled it very professionally. I don't personally know Sean, but I get where he's coming from here. He wrote back to him after this guy's apology, who is a professional. He wrote, you damaged my credibility unnecessarily with false information. That type of recklessness is irresponsible, especially from a former intelligence analyst. And I hope moving forward you will keep that in mind, as it will now take some time to reestablish my credibility because of what you've done to me. That said, I accept your apology. I am always 100% transparent with my audience. So in the future, if you have questions about any of the information I'm putting into the ecosystem, please feel free to contact my team, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. Now let's move on. And yeah, I thought that was as professional as it could be.
Man,
But
he did. I wouldn't even have given the guy a response. That's
or,
cool.
or it would have
I
been
think
like
it's
an
wrong.
expletive filled
I would have been
response.
like, hey, go fuck yourself, you
Yeah,
piece of
exactly.
shit. And it's like, who the fuck are you? So no, but that says a lot about Sean's character, and he does. He is he is a man that is stooped in integrity. He is a man that's stooped in ethics, and it came across just in what you just read.
Yeah.
And that is one thing for any person that's worked within the agency, that has worked at the time Sean did. And again, like I said, we weren't best buddies. We weren't riding together all that. Wasn't anything like that. But I've never heard from anyone a bad word about Sean. You'll hear tons of bad words about me. People trust me all the time. Nobody has ever had said anything bad about Sean. That says a lot about how he is. And
Yeah, it
that's
just
why he
seems
does
like
so
these
well.
people who have bad things to say now, the show is blown up, and then they're just like, oh, you brought these people on, you didn't vet anybody. And it turns out he did vet them. So
Yeah.
I did want to
Yeah.
mention that. So as I said, I just got back the other week from Los Angeles. That's why we had the Best of 2024 episode, which a lot of people liked. I had a great time. I love LA, and one of the crazy things is that our biggest listening audience is Los Angeles. Like if
That's
I go to
weird. That
Simple,
is cool. That is so
I mean,
cool.
it's a big area. So LA
That's
number
awesome.
one, New York number two, and then Texas. So if I look on Simplecast, yeah, they're by far our biggest listening audience. So we're definitely speaking to a lot of people in LA. And I have to say, this is just an absolutely crazy situation. I feel like I personally dodged a bullet, even though I don't have property there, but of leaving when I did. And for those of you guys who do have property there that are being affected by this, like this is just an insane situation going on. So I wanted to at least acknowledge that, man, because as much as shit as California gets for its politics and all that, man, it's an awesome place to be. It's awesome nightlife, the best comedy scene by far. The legendary venues and also now like legendary Hollywood homes like that you've seen in movies and stuff that are now completely destroyed.
Well, that aura that was there back when the Hollywood heyday, and that we still see in the old movies, or you stay at the old hotels, and it will always be there. That aura will always be there because it's Hollywood, it's California. That's where people wanted to go. I remember when I was growing up, that's where you wanted to go on vacation. That's where we went to vacation, and
It's
you
where I
went there.
just went on
Yeah,
vacation.
it's always been that way. So it's iconic. The state, granted, again, the politics of it, and you have politicians there have really drudged it down and made it worse. They have, but it still is a place you want to go. It still is a place. Let's go to California. And you see me. I just said California, put a smile on my face because it reminds me of being a kid and going to Disneyland for the first time, or
Everything
going.
is Disney with you, bro.
Oh, I know. It is. It is because that's just where happiness always was for me and my family when I was even growing up. And we didn't have a lot of money when I was growing up. So going on a trip like that, that was like the Griswolds. That was a big deal, dude. You're like, holy shit, you're saving up to go to California. And then you get there and you do feel different. You the sun and the ocean, and it just was it was a slower time. It was, it was. So seeing that, yeah, I think it affects everybody, whether you like California, how their politics are or not. That's not what you think of. At least that's not what I think of. I think of, man, dude. I remember looking at those, the documentaries and or driving by that hotel. There was a super cool hotel that I remember just driving by in Beverly Hills. But anyway, what I'm getting at is that it's just it's one of those things where it's sad because it's almost like a part of your childhood is dying. And I love you guys out there. I wish you all the best, and those that have lost loved ones, and I, prayers to you. But I know the rest of us out there that grew up with California, grew up. That was the place to go. That's where you go. That's where you want to be happy. It is sad to see, and I did see the aerial photographs, but you said take
Yeah,
a
it's
look at it.
crazy.
I
It's
was like,
crazy.
man, that's gosh, that's third world. I mean, it's not even. It's like the medieval. It's like the zombie apocalypse.
Yeah.
I mean, literally,
Yeah, and the
like a
people driving to
nuclear
get out of
bombs.
there, like I was watching Fox last night, and they're like, it's literally like driving through hell to get out of there.
Well, yeah, and that's dangerous, man. You get caught in your car, you're going to bake. You're like in an oven. You
Yeah,
don't
then
you
there's
don't
people
drive
just
your car. It
abandoning their
just
cars, and now they're
got
having
to.
to tow those cars so that people could, move. It's the whole situation's just insane, man. And
Yeah.
like I said, when I look at the demographics, I would have to assume there's probably listeners who check us out every week who have lost their home or maybe lost
Well, I
someone.
am
So
prayers to you guys, and yeah, I feel for. I do. I feel for you. I understand. I be it working not just with what I did prior in combat and war and going to places, then coming back to them and they're completely gone,
yeah,
which is surreal. But also, for those that don't know, I do have a day job still, and I work as a catastrophe adjuster. I've worked large fires. I'm working the hurricanes right now. And going to a spot that you've seen, and then you come back after a major hurricane or a fire or an earthquake, and it's decimated, it's mind-boggling. It is, and you do feel that like, wow, I was just here. I was just standing up 12 hours ago, and now it's completely gone. Your brain has to wrap around that, and it's sad. It's sad, and it's an adjustment. I know those people out there will be adjusting for many, many years, whether they lost anything or not, just because the atmosphere, the environment has changed, the atmospherics have changed, and that works on the human psyche as well. And like I said, I do hope the best for you. I don't give a shit about the politics out there. Whatever happened, though, you fix it. You made a mistake, whatever. Fix it so it doesn't happen again. But in the meantime, let's help whoever's out there. At least say a prayer to whoever's out there so they can get their lives back on line. And if those that are clinging on to life, prayers that they get through it, and those that have lost, prayers that the people that have gone through that, lost loved ones, gain, get I don't say acceptance, but just get strength to get through it. And
yeah.
that's what I hope for.
For sure. And then the last thing I want to address before we get to Jason, just because some of you guys are invested in it, most of our audience is not on social media, so some of you don't know even what I'm talking about. Although I mentioned it at the top of last show, which was audio only, because our video editor Harold, who has really done an amazing job over the past like year and a half, nearly 2 years, was jumped
Yeah.
outside of where he was in his home in the Philippines. I saw the picture. I thought maybe separate than what you did, and then I sent you the picture. And as of this recording, I have not heard anything back from Harold. And one thing I do want to say in terms of that is that 'cause I want to make sure, because people who don't know my ethics or integrity or any of that. I did say in a post, hey, if you have any funds that you want to donate to Harold, he hasn't asked for anything, but I'm sure it's going to cost him for the hospital stay and all that. And people did step up and they asked, hey, how do I send money? And I gave them my account information. And so I have that money in my accounts to send to Harold. However, I have not heard anything. So if I don't hear anything, that money will go directly back to you guys because I don't have contact with his family. I don't know if you're thinking the absolute worst. I mean, you saw the picture, so I,
Well,
I don't know what's going on.
it's tough because you got the one black eye, and you said he was hitting the
And I'm
back
not
of the.
putting this up, by the way, because I don't. He
Yeah,
never said to put these pictures
he
up
never says.
publicly, but yeah,
I do know just going through, and we do. You do go through whether you're an EMT or you go through any of the medical training. When you get to the level, you're required to go through a lot of medical training and get certified and recertified, and at least not even just at the combat lifesaver level, but even at a EMT level. And I don't have any certifications that way because that's a lot more work than I was willing to put into. But I'd go through a lot of those because they wanted us to. Goat labs, trying to keep people alive, goats alive, not people, but
Yeah.
eventually people. But you learn on goats, and just looking at that picture, it's hard to not knowing much other than he got hit in the back of the head, but then seeing eye swelling, that is a telltale sign of brain bleeds, of brain swelling. But that being said, he might have been hit because the one eye is bigger than the other. Maybe he was just, hopefully, he got hit in that eye and it's just a black eye. Because you don't want to brain bleeds are that is very serious
Fatal.
business. Yeah, it's I don't know what the percentage is, but I'm sure it's pretty high. So yeah, I mean that's the scary thing. You don't really see any marks or
No.
scratches, but the bad thing is back of the head hit. Now I got swelling up front. Yeah, so I hope I'll be quite honest, I hope he got hit in the face and not in the back of the head because that's a lot better. A black eye is a lot better than having your brain start to swell
Yeah.
and bleed. So I hope he's, yeah, Harold, if you're hearing this, pull through, buddy. You do an excellent job, man. We really appreciate it. I mean, you really have made this, you've taken us to the next level on the video side of the house, and we appreciate that. So we want to help you, bud, but let us know what's going on, so we can, and we just want to
Yeah.
know you're all right. And that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, it's really strange because truthfully, behind the scenes, there are times where I just don't hear from Harold for a few days. So I'm like, okay, this is not the most uncommon thing. Like if it's you,
Yeah.
truthfully, if it's you or me, we get back to each other really quickly.
Well,
Even if your phone is off, I know if it's something important, I could email you, I could
yeah,
call your wife.
yeah, yeah.
With Harold, there are times where I just don't hear anything back. So I'm hoping I do get an email that just says, "Hey, I'm recovering here. Everything is okay." Um, in the meantime, this episode is being edited by our friend Rob Dickerson, who was doing the episodes before Harold, and which I appreciate because otherwise
Yeah,
it would just
Rob,
be
thanks,
audio
bud.
only. Yeah, so
Yeah.
thanks, Rob. Rob will be stepping up, I guess, just for until we figure out what the hell is going on. But I wanted to let you guys know that, and also let you know that any of the money you sent, I'm definitely not pocketing. If you think
Yeah,
that
we don't.
I would do anything like that.
For those that have heard our episodes, we are completely against the bullshit foundations and the GoFundmes. Ian is extremely vocal about being about charlatans and those GoFundmes out there that are pocketing money or don't the money doesn't go where it needs to go.
Yeah.
So if Ian's telling you this guy's got honest truth, it's going to come back to you if we find out that Harold doesn't need it. But whoever did step up, and for my buddy, I'm going to call him out in there because he is a good friend. He worked at Blackwater with me for many years. He now works at Glock. Ryan Sherrick. That was cool. Hey man, how can I help your buddy out? Like he knew before I think I was
Yeah.
on vacation. Like, I go, who? But he stepped up, and that says a lot. And Ryan is a former TACP that served in the Global War on Terror, and he was with me at Blackwater. Wonderful guy. And he just, that just says a lot about the character of veterans. I think it does because he stepped up and said, and I just, he got a hold of it and he gave you some money. He doesn't have a ton of money on him, but he
Yeah.
gave what he could. That's super cool. So
Yeah,
appreciate that.
Georgia Sampson, extremely
Georgia,
generous,
oh,
but
she's awesome.
yeah.
Georgia.
But once again, the money is either going to go to Harold or it's going to go back to you. I just
I
need
agree.
to know what the hell is going on. And yeah, we're both concerned, man. We're both very concerned. The last thing I'll say before we bring on Jason is we're going to do another guest free episode next week because you guys love those. So if you ever have any questions you want to ask us, battlelinepodcast at
Yeah.
gmail.com. Any question at all, pretty much nothing is off limits. So battlelinepodcast at gmail.com and we'll answer it. With that, we're going to get over to our friend Jason Piccolo, who we've been a fan of for many years now, has a brand new book out, Pivot, which you guys got to
Yeah.
check out. But before we get to Jason, Fort Scott Munitions has been with us since the very beginning, our flagship sponsor, if you want to call
They
them
are.
that. Yeah, manufacturer of multi-federal patented solid copper and brass CNC spun ammunition. It's designed to tumble upon impact in soft tissue, leaving devastating wound channels for faster bleed out and quicker incapacitation. This ammunition was originally developed to innovate and improve on the standard of military grade ammunition design. It was found that not only did the TUI ammunition outperform competitors in the self defense industry, but it quickly became apparent that it would be a top contender for hunters alike. With the ammunition being CNC spun, the tolerances are some of the tightest on the market, ensuring that you receive the same results with each pull of the trigger. Fort Scott Munitions is available throughout privately owned businesses in all 50 states, but you'll get the best deal through us when you just go to fsm.com and you use our promo code BATTLELINE, which is good for 15% off your order of most stuff on there. So check that out. Only available to listeners of the podcast, fsm.com, promo code BATTLELINE. If you're in the market for ammo, you got to give them a look. Fort Scott Munitions is a proud supporter of Chris Peranto, Battleline Tactical, and the Battleline Podcast. So back on the podcast, actually, for the first time in a really long time, is an old friend of the show, Jason Piccolo, Dr.
Yeah,
Jason Piccolo, former
doctor.
border agent, Army veteran, podcast host of the Protectors podcast, author. Latest book is Pivot, which we'll get into. But actually, you know what I wanted to ask you before we even get into the book? The book is obviously very important, but because we're now in a transition to President Trump, the thing that I think you're really most known for is the whistleblowing of what was
Oh
going on
yeah.
at the border, of kids being, uh, going off to unvetted sponsors, people who are child predators.
Yeah.
And like you have been very open that like under Biden, that went on again, like Trump got rid of it. So I'm wondering, is that still going on today?
Oh,
And is there, and
Ian,
also,
bro, I know where you're going with this. I'll just,
and
I'm
also,
gonna
is
nip it
Trump
right
going
in
to
the
do
bud.
anything if that's the case? We got to start with that
We're
though.
gonna
I,
start it.
I don't know where he's going, so I'm
No,
just gonna
that's
be a
it. I
fly
just
on the
want to know
wall.
the status
Okay,
of
what?
it because it's been a couple of years since I've heard anything.
Okay, let's get into this. Let's talk about it. We'll get into the book later. Hey, I really just wanted to talk to you guys. It's been a while, but hey, check it out, man. Um, 2011, and this is to refresh everybody's memory about what's going on here at the border. 2011, we have an influx of children coming across the border, and what they're called unaccompanied migrant children, or no, unaccompanied alien children at the time. Yeah, unaccompanied alien children, UACs, because they've changed the name of them over the years to make it more politically correct.
I thought it was just
So
unaccompanied minors, so that's what they changed it
no,
to
no,
make it.
no. They've changed it to everything. Probably now it is unaccompanied migrant, unaccompanied minors who went to unaccompanied migrant children. I mean, it's been everything. Really, I think they do it just so they could hide what's actually going on here. Hey, listen, I'm retired now, so I can speak my mind. So, as you guys know, 23 years federal government, a lot of that time spent within DHS. And one of my assignments back in 2009 through 2016 was working with Immigration and Customs Enforcement under the enforcement and removal operations. And in that capacity, I was a supervisor. Then I moved over to headquarters where I was a staff officer. And at that time, I was also the acting unit chief for quite a long time, where I actually was acting unit chief over 26 field offices. So within that time, I get assigned to the DHS human smuggling cell, and we are tasked under the White House Security Council to stop this crisis at the border. We were supposed to be at the strategic level to really hammer in what was going on with the unaccompanied alien children. So what happened was in about 2011 is when the influx really started happening. At the border, little kids, unaccompanied little kids, up through teenagers. Yes, there were some MS-13 intermingled in there acting as teens, but a lot of thousands of unaccompanied children. And hey, you know what, Chris, you and I and Ian, you're going to be there soon. You might even have one. But kids,
No,
kids,
not
we all
anytime
have,
soon.
we have children. So we know what it's like. Can you imagine your little kid,
Yeah.
two, three babies getting shuffled across that border? So a kid comes up to the border, and a lot of times they're brought in by smugglers, and they might have a phone number written on their clothing, or some sort of contact information written on their somewhere on them. So an adult, not necessarily familial relation in the United States, will get this kid when they come through the custody system. We're going to go through that right now. So in 2011, thousands of kids starting and coming across the border. With politics, it's easy. They're like, hey, you know what? Send these kids come across the border. Some families are trying to get their kids here because they're already here present without admission or parole from an immigration officer. So they can't just go back down south and grab a kid, bring them north because they're here illegally. So the kids are coming across the border, right? They come to the border. They either go to a port of entry where they'll get being encountered by an officer, or they'll get encountered by a U.S. Border Patrol agent outside of the ports of entry. Now, when they come into the custody of one of these people from CBP, one of the agents or officers, they will then go into ICE custody, Immigration and Customs Enforcement custody, who will then hand them over to Health and Human Services, Office of Refugee Resettlement. who will then hand them over to a contracted facility. So HHS will contract companies to handle their migrant children. Now, there's a timeline in all of this. The kids have to get into custody. They have to get over to HHS. HHS has to get them to a sponsor, and the sponsor facility needs to get them out the door because you can't keep them in custody that long. There's not enough space. And plus, the politics at the time and throughout the years. So these kids are coming across the border. There are thousands and thousands. And I would like to say, I don't know what the current statistics are, but think about 2011 to now, there has to be over 1 million of them.
Oh, yeah, well over,
A
yeah.
million.
I mean, if you look
Plus.
at the statistics of how many people are coming over the border, I mean, it's multiplied by God knows how many, right?
Yeah. Well, think about it this way. These kids are coming across with adults. And back in the day, before it became they really when Trump came into office the first time, they started hammering adults for bringing kids over there and acting like they were family. And that's a whole nother, we could do a whole show into that whole thing because that's another story. But anyway, these kids go in these sponsor facilities and they get released to a sponsor. Now there's different levels of sponsors. Now you got familial relations, which is great. You have a father, someone who's a direct father, mother, someone who's a direct lineage to that child. And hey, how can we do that? DNA tells us. And plus, there's other ways to figure it out as well. And then you have familial relations. You'll have people that are friends of the family, and then you'll have other adult sponsors. And what I found out when I was with this human smuggling cell back in 2015, and there was 13 of us. What I found out is that DHS said, hey, you know what? We need to really take a look what's going on with these sponsors. They're not getting vetted. The sponsors were not getting fingerprinted. They were not having their criminal histories run, nothing. They're pretty much just handing these kids over to anybody. So DHS says, hey, you know what? Let's run a sampling. So they run a sampling of 29,000 sponsors, and 3,400 plus came back with criminal records. And that could be a criminal record like reentry after deportation, but there were sex offenders and murderers in there. So the reason they weren't doing it is, for one, it was an election year, it was 2015. And two, it's like, hey, you know what? These people aren't going to let us take their fingerprints or everything because a majority of them, I would say almost, I'd say a lot of them, I'm not going to go into this. Okay, let's say over 90% are here present without admission or parole. So they're not going to get vetted. Nobody was vetting these sponsors. Kids are getting released to criminals. I blew the whistle in 2015. I got the spreadsheet. I said, I go to whistle. My career was over at that point. We've already been through that story. But now here's what happened. 2016, I went to Senator Grassley's office. Actually, I went to them before that. And under Trump, they changed everything, man. They were fingerprinting. They were doing rapid DNA. They were monitoring where these kids are at. And it got good. So lo and behold, Trump, he's out of the office, right? Biden comes in, and within months, and I say I believe, they stopped vetting. And you could Google it, and I shouldn't say Google, but you could find the verified old documents that they stopped vetting the sponsors. No more fingerprints. And hey, you know what? Because the border has exploded since then, man. Hundreds of thousands of more kids coming across the border. And now, when a kid goes to a sponsor facility, ICE, HHS, anybody with a competent authority is supposed to monitor where that child has ended up. And you're finding out that kids are ending up, and this is bona fide, ending up within sex trafficking and within labor trafficking organizations. I shouldn't say organizations, but they're out there. They're getting trafficked. Every day these kids are getting trafficked.
Like syndicates, man.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
They are crime syndicates.
Oh man,
Wow.
when they were doing the accompanied children, and I write about this stuff in town hall, and believe me, I've been blowing it up since then. And the past few months, I've been blowing up articles over there. So if you go over to Jason Piccolo in town hall, you'll see. I'm like, look, Trump needs to come in office, and he nips the bud on day one. Because
But
what's
has he?
happening?
That's what I was wondering. Has he had any like correspondence with you or people like you to say like, "Hey, we need to get back to what you were
Hey,
doing"?
bro, I emailed everybody, man. I
Yeah.
said, look, I'm retired now. Bring me back, put me back in the game.
Well, you would think because is Grassley still around in Iowa? He's always
Yeah.
been a. I mean, that guy. I'm living in Nebraska, growing up in
Mm-hmm.
Nebraska. Grassley was always a fighter.
Oh,
He was,
solid, man,
he
solid.
was, and he still
Hmm.
was. So, but I mean,
Yeah,
he's
he's
like
still,
100. He's
yeah,
like 180 now, dude.
he's
Right?
probably at least 116
No,
at least, you
but
know.
he's still a bad. I know the dude. That's one of the Congress. I don't have a lot of respect for many Congress people at all, but he was one I always had. And I've spoken at events where he's been at those events.
Yeah.
Joni
Hey,
Ernst has been at some of them, but he was. I love that guy. Yeah, I would think that he would say, "Hey, bring this dude back on," because people listen
well,
to Chuck Grassley.
we'll get into that in a minute. But
Yeah.
there's so much going on with this stuff, man, that it just
See
blows.
there, Grassley, right there. He's hitting. He's hitting up right there.
Oh.
On your.
Oh yeah, right there on my map. Hey, you know what? Those I've he helped me out, man. Because I mean, we can get into this in a second. Let me write a little note because I want to get into the SIAs. But hey, kids are still coming across, still getting lost. Lost. I mean, they're absolutely lost. I think they
Yeah.
said they lost track of what 300,000 of them
Oh, yeah.
or
Yeah.
30,000. I think it's over
No, it
300,000.
was six, it was six figures. Whatever article. I mean, that
Oh
was a big
man,
deal.
yeah. But anyway, there was also the issue that, and this is why they had to start doing DNA, because accompanied children would come across with adults, and the adults would get a bona fide passport from down south that would show that this kid is theirs. So they would have the passports. But then when they started doing DNA, they're like, hey, dude, that kid's not yours. They were doing the rapid DNA, and the people were like, oh, well, at this point, you can get, convicted. You can get, prosecuted. So now and then what happened? So they would use these kids, and I wrote about this too. They would use these kids, bring them across the border, and then send them right back down south to be used again. They're recycling kids to get adults across the border.
Whoa.
But
Wow.
let's backtrack. DeSantis people they tried to nip this thing in the bud. So I think it was about 2 years ago now. I went down. Yeah, you're not supposed to talk. But one of the attorneys was like, "Yeah, you're really not supposed to talk about grand jury." But hey, listen, I went down and testified in Florida about the grand jury for the grand jury, and we talked about the kids. And for about 3 or 4 hours, I sat there and I told them the whole process, man. And they showed, well, I don't know. Listen, there are videos. I'm not going to say they showed me, but there are videos of them selling kids down south. I mean, it made
Yeah.
me sick. And I'm thinking they're selling kids here now. These and man, listen. We know the real world. I mean, you guys absolutely know the real world. They are selling children for sex. It's industrialized sex, and sick people out there, evil people are raping these children at a wholesale level right now. So what I did is, a few months ago, I was like, I just, I get through these waves where I'm like, I just can't deal with this shit.
Yeah.
Excuse my French. So I wrote a whole bunch of letters, House, Homeland, everyone. And I said, here's my comprehensive guide. And I came up with a plan. I said, okay, this is how we could do this by vetting the sponsors, by doing DNA. Every sponsor that comes in there should be placed under what they used to do under ICE to monitor criminal aliens and people who are getting ready to go to court is alternatives to detention, i.e. GPS. We could contract that crap out. Listen, we're sending $45-50 billion overseas. Throw $30-40 million into monitoring every sponsor, either through GPS or some other tracking method. The children have to go to an immigration court. They're put into the immigration system. They're issued a notice to appear, meaning they have to go and see a judge. So what we should do is have them report to the local ICE office. They go to the ICE office with their sponsor brings them in there, and they verify the health and safety of that child. While they're at it, they update their vetting of these sponsors. So every sponsor needs to be vetted. They need to be fingerprinted, and they need to be monitored. They need to be brought into an ICE office, or hey, you know what? You don't want to do an ICE office? You come up with some sort of law enforcement agency connected to the US government or a contracted agency that could run criminal history checks and knows what questions to ask them. Make sure that when they come in, that they aren't re-offending or they haven't offended since the last time they came in. It's not that hard because we know, if nobody has ever been encountered by law enforcement or the IC here or abroad, then they are not going to show up in any vetting. So that's kind of where I'm at now. Is I've sent all these things. So one of the congressmen that I reached out to said, "Hey," the day after I sent all these letters out, they said, "Hey, come on in." I go down to Congress, and at the time it's funny because I was a contracted firearms instructor, FI, for the Capitol Police for 6 months. So I took the day off, got a suit, went down, met with a congressman with his staff, and I laid out this plan. And at the time, I'm like, they're not listening, are they? Two attorneys, and I'm like, they're just going through the head. So you know what they told me? They said, hey, look, and this is where political capital comes in. They go, oh, that's nice, but what we really want you to do is to recruit whistleblowers. We want you to go out and find people in the government to come forward and talk to us. And I'm thinking to myself, so everything you really want me to do is go out there and do your job for you.
Yeah.
And sell becoming a whistleblower. And me as a whistleblower, I didn't get anything positive out of this. There was no big lawsuits with lots of cash. And the only thing I've got was my career was Stanley. So I'm like, so you don't care about anything about fixing a process. You want political capital because it looks great when you put a whistleblower on a stand. It looks absolutely amazing with the desk. You know, you can come up with, pictures and all that. So that's where that's at. So yeah, bro, you asked about the kids, and there's my.
It's just unbelievable because it seems like to me, and I'm just a simple man, but bringing the kids in and you're having this sponsor come in, you've got the perpetrator right there, right there. You kill two birds with one stone.
Yeah.
The kid, you got the kid, and guess what? I'm catching the criminal at the same time. I have to go through more screenings just to. Well, shit, Amy, what's the last screening I had to go through just to check into a hotel? It's like, dude, you're just handing the kid over because you familial relation. No,
the guy comes in with and it's probably not, and they're probably coming in with sedulous, like a Mexican form of.
Exactly.
Like, here's a kid. Hey,
there.
You want a kid? Hey, we got a sale. And and you know what killed me the most, man, when I blew the whistle was I was the only one from our little area there that had access to the UAC database. So I could look and see little pictures of these kids. And I'm like, man. And
that's some sick shit though with people. Why would you? I know I've been around enough to know that people are sick.
Yeah, bro.
But it's just you're right. Do you want to fix it, or do you want? No, let's fix it. There's a real easy fix. We can fix it right now. You have to do your jobs.
Yeah, but, and you know what? Well, here's the deal: is like I've been a contractor since I retired. Shit, bro. You were a contractor.
Yeah.
How many? Why can't we just put together? Listen, I talk to my buddies all the time because we're all about that age. We're all like in our 50s now, and we retire.
Contract us out.
We'll contract it out, man.
Hey, man, we got it.
How many retired LEOs are there right now in retired military? What about all these? You have such a massive amount of resources out there that you could put a contract together and say, hey, you know what? We are going to do monitoring of these children, and we're going to do recovery. If we can't find them, we're going to recover them. And hey, by the way, recovery doesn't have to be like, oh, we're going to go knock down doors. No, recovery is we're going to do surveillance, and we're going to find out where it is, and then we're going to call ICE, and ICE is going to go over and get the person, or we're going to call the locals. Because hey, look, how many? Go to not USA Jobs, but go to LinkedIn, go to Indeed, go to anywhere, and look up background investigator jobs, and how many of them are out there. Why can't we just contract this out? We contract everything else out.
I don't know. I don't have an answer. I mean, with the new president coming in, with Trump coming in, I don't have an answer. That's what we need to do. Hey, President Trump, that's what we need to do, bud. Pretty simple fix. Do you want to do it, or I agree with you. Do you want to continue to gain political capital by putting it on C-SPAN and Fox and then the big, because that drives the funds to the political parties.
Let's get a little bit off the rails here. Let's flush the U.S. government. Let us get rid of all of these career SESs and all these career people that have been there through the administrations playing the game. They play the political game. They are politicians. I don't care if they are catching a G. They're making their $200,000 with bonuses as a federal employee for 20, 30, 40 years. Flush the government. It's time. I mean,
so do you think this will be like what you're talking about right now? Do you think this will be a priority for Trump? Because it's like he comes into office. We have the issue in California right now. That's going to be a major priority, along with a lot of other things, just securing the border itself. One of my favorite issues, opening up the Bitcoin strategic reserve, which I do honestly hope they do. But do you think this will be like, hey, first 100 days, let's fix this unvetted sponsor issue?
Let me look at one of my town hall articles. Actually, you know what, bro? I love writing for them because they publish it. Listen, I've written stuff for Newsweek and everywhere else. And you know who actually this published an article about this whole thing. Was like the Catholic Church has a paper, and they're like, because the Catholic Charities is another big thing. It's kind of,
which I'm surprised by, because I will say one thing, I don't know if I'm going to get accused of being like anti-Catholic or something. Half my family's Catholic, but whenever, the Pope gets involved in the immigration debate, they're very like open borders. The Pope is very much just like, oh, let them all come in.
okay, here's what I wrote November 9th, 2024. And this is when I was writing letters all to Congress and everybody. No, it was actually before that. Trump won day one, protect the children, America's lost migrant children crisis. I said on day one, President Trump must take immediate action to protect migrant children by completely overhauling the Office of Refugee Resettlement within the Department of Health and Human Services. The current catastrophe has resulted in thousands upon thousands of children vanishing into the unknown, many into the hands of traffickers.
Do you think he will? Do you think he will?
He has to. There is no thinking. And you know what? Listen, man, you want to play politics all day long, but if he learned anything from the first go around, was that he needs to put trusted people in there. Yeah. He did. You know what? He did put this guy in charge of ICE. Listen, the previous ICE administrator, acting deputy, I don't even know. They come up with these terms because it's political. The last one was Patrick Leckletter, and PJ and I were classmates. Good dude. The new one coming in that Trump wants is Caleb Vitello. Now, Caleb is solid, from what I understand, because I talked to a lot of people around him. I didn't take this as firsthand knowledge because I never met the guy. But from what it sounds like, is he's solid. They pulled him up through a lot of he was a field agent, field officer. He did a lot of stuff in the field. He's ran the NFTTU, National Firearms Tracking, fugitive operations. He knows what he's doing. But Caleb needs to bring in a good crew. Because remember, a lot of these people that were in power have been in power since even before Trump won. Trump admin won. So he needs a flush. He needs to get a good crew of people around him. I know a lot of retired, annuitants. I would gladly go work for them, but they need to fix that whole system, because the problem is ICE is HSI, Homeland Security investigations, and enforcement removal operations. HSI does the investigations into these trafficking networks, but they also do child porn cases. They do all of the human trafficking cases. They do the investigations. ERO is supposed to deal with the alien crisis, and someone needs to go in there and just make sure that they're not pulling HSI to go out here and just shuffle bodies at the border. They need these two agencies separate. So I'm hoping, and I'm going to do everything I can with my limited keyboard. Hey, listen, man, I could type all day long. You know that. And Chris, thank you for writing the forward to Unwavering of Border.
Yeah, of course. I can't type. That's why I could only do the forward. Like, hey, man, I can't do this.
You can't type your podcast, brother. What's up?
I know. So there'll be no more books ever. Like, you write books all the time. Like, nah, you're writing another book, Tano? No, I'm good. Yeah.
I tell you what, I'm going to make the kids soon, because now they're old enough. We're going to be watching 13 Hours, brother.
Got to.
Yeah, man, I love it. We watch all this stuff, man.
I appreciate it, man. Nah, that's cool. It's an honor to keep seeing that the story continues to go. And
you got to say their names, man. I say that all the time.
Ronan, Bubba, and Christian Sean. It's amazing, and it's amazing that it got through the cancel time. I really did think it was going to be along the line, canceling PCU and Ford Fairlane and 13 Hours, and we got through it, man. So so it's good. I appreciate that, bro. I do. Well, I know we wanted to talk about this. Do we still want to, or are we not going there?
Oh yeah. You know what? You know where the idea of this book came from? And I wrote this book quick, man. I've been writing.
Really? I mean, because this is a thick book. When you say I wrote this book,
believe me, I've been working on this thing for a long time. But what really was the nail that said I need to publish is I went to the University of Nebraska in Omaha.
Did you really?
I did. I didn't go there, but I went there to give a speech because I
got my master's. I got my master's degree.
Oh, no way, man! In Omaha,
at University of Nebraska.
I thought that's why you said it.
Yeah, that's man. Yeah, that's.
I love Nebraska, brother.
I met my wife, man. That's where
Tanya is. Look at you.
Yeah. Did you speak there? Okay, tell me about it, man. How is that university now? Is it? I know it's grown a little bit. It was big when I went there.
You know what? You should go up there and just chat with their veteran organization, man. That's why. So, that's what I'm doing with this book, man. I'm trying to get out there like Tabs and all these veteran organizations. So, for years, probably about, man, I started probably around 2012. I became a mentor with like a bunch of different organizations from Hire Heroes USA to American Corporate Partners, internal mentor. But I also, when I worked for my last agency, I was a hiring manager. So I
Right.
know the federal system. And every time I go out and give these speeches or whenever doing virtual or in person, it's always like I get the same questions. TAPS really, anybody transition assistance program is really like 2 or 3 weeks, man. You don't really learn. And it's like a fire hose and you're transitioning. And I probably should say what the book's about. Hey, listen, Pivot is 436 pages of be 24 months out when you're getting out of the service, and for veterans to go everywhere from applying to jobs, interview process, interview preparation, how USA Jobs works, because this is more geared towards people who are going to put in for a federal or a private sector service type job. Because, with the background with the protectors and everything, I want it to be service oriented. So this is really your go-to guide. It's in depth. You saw it, man. It's 430 something pages because I wanted it to be here. Put this in a goodie bag for a vet or a service member because when they're transitioning, there is so much going on with them that they don't have time to be like, oh, what was that again? What's a STAR method? Situation, task, action, result. How do you prep for an interview? So I came up with this book, and what really happened was I went out to the University of Nebraska in Omaha, and I'm giving a speech, and a lot of it was current service members. I thought I was going there to speak to vets, and I found out that these service members are like, they're asking questions, and they're about to get out
Yeah.
that they should have known 2 years ago. They should have. And listen, not everybody has 2 years prep. And this book doesn't matter if it's 2 years, 5 months, or one day. It's supposed to help you get to that point where you get hired, or what I like to call them, get to that bridge job. So you get a job when you get out of the service. Because I get real in this book, man. Listen, we got a E3s, E4s rolling out of there with $30,000-$40,000 of debt. They can't just go get their dream job. And some of them can't afford to go to college right away. So I talk about bridge jobs. I talk about the E6 who has 2 ex-wives and he's not pulling in anything and he has to go really, and I come up with the scenarios and I talk to people, but he has to go and get a job, a bridge job. I call them bridge jobs. So you get this job until you get your dream job, or you have multiple bridge jobs. And then you get your dream job. You don't like that? Now you move on. So really, 200,000 vets, service members are leaving a year. And how many of them are ready to get a job? How many of them are prepared?
What I like, and that's why I just picked it up. This is what will help, and all you veterans out there that, or you military members that are moving out. This book isn't just it's a guideline. It's not just just you read it and you read it like the Ranger Way. You read, oh man, I feel sorry for Tano. He's a jackass. It's no. What I like is you tell them how to write a resume. That is the hugest where I get the biggest questions from people getting out of the military. They're going, what do I need? And I wish I would have known. How do you talk about your resume when you talk to people? I love this, and I just opened it up, and this is perfect because this is something I could have used. This is what I tell people. And I learned the hard way because I would write it the wrong way. You write military lingo. Instead of commanded 30 troops, led a team of 30 professionals. That's military speak versus civilian speak. Does it matter? Yes, it matters huge. And we just talked about me working in the insurance industry. That was something I had to learn of how to talk, not military wise, but civilian wise. So there's a difference. So you resonate with you resonate with the group that you're speaking with. And at that time and at that point, it's an HR person that may not like the military. They may have nothing against them, but maybe they just don't like them. Maybe they're intimidated by the military. And those transition, I read a little bit about that. Those transition jobs, I did that. I worked as a security officer for the insurance company because I needed a job while I was going to college, and I worked nights rolling as a security officer for West Telemarketing and then Mutual of Omaha. And that's when I got my dream job but I'm at a point now where I'm still working as in the insurance industry. Is it a
Yeah.
dream? No, but I did my dream job. But I now have a really good job. It's like I call it my retirement job. But the whole reason is because learn the hard way. I was able to transition from that military lingo, the military mindset, still utilize it, but put it and package it differently for the civilian world. And that's essentially, buddy. And I know I'm putting it, but that's essentially just skimming through this right quick. That's what you get here.
Bro,
It is. It's
it's
exactly
everything
what.
I could think of for 30 years, man. Because listen, man, I got out of the army in the first time I was a 13B in the army in the 90s. I was active duty and I got out, went to college. But when I got out, man, I was supposed to go into the border patrol. I did the expedited hiring back then. And what happened was they were going to send me to some shithole in Texas. And I was like, I might as well just go to college. I was following well, the big deal was I was really following my best friend in, and he was in San Diego, and they wanted to send me to Texas. So I go to college, and I literally when I was there, I was like, well, maybe I'll take an EMT course. Because brother, before I went in the army, my GPA was 1.7 at a community college. I was a mess. The army
It's
really
a
did it. I mean, the army was
yeah
like my godsend. So then I'm thinking EMT, but then I go down to the college and I was like, hey, can I can I get in? They're like, we'll put you in as like a uh academic, not academic probation, but like a special student. And I did it, man. And I knocked that sucker out in 2.5 years. And then I went into the border patrol. But I had no idea what I was doing, man. And if I had to get a job rather than using my GI Bill and college fund, I would have been screwed.
yeah yeah. And,
Yeah, I
and
don't know if you really thought about it when writing this book of what a service that you're doing, but one thing you got to keep in mind, it's like honestly, I mean, I know this is the extreme, but we hear about veteran suicides, we hear about post-traumatic stress and all that. And some of that, I think, for guys almost is like what you see portrayed in Rambo, the guy who comes out of military service and is completely lost and can't get a job doing anything. I mean, like I know Jack Murphy has been open about it that when he left the military, he was just trying to get a job like I think it was driving Domino's pizza car, and they were like, "Oh, you're overqualified," and he couldn't even do that. And I think that's like really common among military members. Like you get out, they don't know if they want to hire you, you know, especially as Chris said, the people who have the bias against veterans. And I think, yeah, it's probably really tough to come out and you're unemployed in some cases for a year, for longer. And I think you writing this book gives people some hope that, okay, I can transition. I do know what to do, and I will fall on my feet when I get out.
I tell you what, the next transition point for me, and it really affected me, was I commissioned as an infantry officer, and then I was in an IRR. So and as an officer, you're indefinite. So when I got recalled, they sent me to Fort Benning, Georgia in 2005, and they put me in charge of 90 E4 and belows. All got recalled. And a lot of and back then it was like if you did a PT test, you get promoted to the next grade. So I did get a bunch of E5s out of it from the Ranger Regiment. That was, thank God, because those guys knew what the kids knew what they were doing. And I call them kids because I'm 52 years old, but 52 today, by the way. Hey,
Oh yeah, happy birthday! I did
thanks,
write
buddy.
that
I had
down.
to throw
Yeah,
it out there, man. Come
I
on.
can't believe this is how you're spending your birthday. Chatting
Listen,
with us, but I
I'm going to
appreciate
get
it.
some Korean barbecue. I did a little float today, like
Yeah,
the
as
hydro
soon as you're
float.
ready to be like, I got to get out of here. Please tell us.
Oh no, we're talking, brother. I got time. But hey, so 90 of them, and this is 90 of I don't know how many thousands got recalled, and it was for 18 months. Now, my situation was different because at the time I was a special agent. So I was already in the federal government. I already had a job. But I'll get into what happened later on after this. But those kids, a lot of them just got yanked out of their life. And in 18 months, unless they had a really solid job who's going to have to rehire them, a lot of them don't want to go back to that shit. But there was no taps for
yeah.
recalling IRR guys. When you get back, they give you a little form and says, "Do you want to kill yourself?" And you're like, "Hell no, I don't want to kill myself because if I say I want to do it, I got to stick around here." No, we're out, and you're out. So these kids are out, man. I mean, they're back in the real world after 18 months, and a lot of them went to some austere environments that were really shitty on their head. And now they got to figure out. Now they have to survive. So when I wrote this book, I thought about that, but a lot of it was selfish as well because I thought about my own circumstance. When I got back from the war, I had a lot of devastating things happen within a short amount of time where I had to relocate and get a new job. And I I didn't know how to look for new jobs and stuff like that. I didn't know about interview process. I didn't know about like, at this time, technology changed from when I first applied for these jobs in the 90s. I didn't know anything about like an HR person is going to look at this. So here's the deal. When you put in for the federal government, when you put your resume in, at first it gets a lot. Sometimes nowadays they're scanning it for keywords and everything, make sure you're qualified.
And
But then it goes
unfortunately,
to
in some cases, they're not scanning it. AI
Yeah.
is scanning it, which is
exactly,
fucking crazy,
and
right?
that's why I get into it in a book too. I'm like, you got it, you got it. Every resume has to be tailored for the job you want,
Yeah.
not just some shotgun jobs. Because then it goes to an HR person. An HR person, if you don't write this in civilian terms that's relevant to that specific job, you're not going to get to the next step. Well, the next step is a hiring. The cert list, certification list comes down, and hey, listen, man, you're already a vet. I'll get into why the government wants to hire vets in a second, but and it's not for their call of duty. Like, hey, you guys are awesome. It's for another reason. So they go through it, and then you get to the cert list comes down, and now you're on a cert list with how many people, and you have to set yourself above. And if you have a shotgunning a resume out there, it's not going to go anywhere. And that's why I always tell people to also put a cover letter in there, because that's where, as me as a hiring manager, hiring official, and being on interview boards, I always look at a cover letter to see what's the deal with this dude, girl, guy, or whatever. But the government loves hiring vets because they can hire them without competition. They don't have to worry about getting sued.
Yeah.
Because if you have someone on a list that's a veteran, they already have a preference. They're not, hey, listen, we're going to hire the vet because it's easy. We can hire them through, and we already have the federal authority to do it. I learned a lesson about shotgunning resumes and interviews. I needed to find a job. I interviewed with the U.S. Marshals. And at the time, I was like a GS 13, 1811. And at the time, I probably still are. Marshals were 1811 GS 12s. I go into the interview. The guy's like, oh, bro, you maxed it, the hiring people. We all like, you're a hunter. I'm like, cool. So I go back and I, never hear back from him. So 2 years later, I'm working for ICE at the time. I'm like, let's see what happened to that. I call up HR, Marshall's HR, and a lady goes to me. She goes, oh, what's your name? Oh, yeah. Where do you want to go? I'm like, this is 2 years later. We have something in Brooklyn. I'm like, I'm not going to Brooklyn. I'm like, what happened? She goes, listen, man. She didn't say man, but she said, what happens was you're one resume and a stack of a million other resumes, and nothing sets you apart. So the other part of this is you have got to keep on track of your application. You need the network. I got this last job off of LinkedIn. So, and I'll get it. You know what? I might as well get into the story.
And I will say that's the thing with LinkedIn. I hate social media, I really do, but LinkedIn really sets itself apart from all the other social media because LinkedIn's focus is on building networks to either get
Yep.
employed or finding people for your, if you run a business. And yeah, it's not just people babbling about nonsense and complaining about politics. It's like, hey, I want to
Yeah.
work for you. We need someone like you, and it'll actually, unlike most social media, which is just a brain suck time waster, this will actually make you money and advance your career. So I think LinkedIn is extremely important.
My last two contractor jobs with the Capitol Police and my current one have been with LinkedIn. And my Fed job, I got a Fed job. I didn't, the agency I worked with was like, hey, look, I have a very particular set of skills that's called policy and writing. And they would always, this guy from this agency was an assistant director, and he always hit me up on LinkedIn and go, hey, we're trying to revamp our firearms policy. Can you give me a hand with them? I'm like, yeah, sure. We're trying to do this and that. So I gave him a hand. And after a while, he was like, do you want to come work for us? I was like, sure. So, I mean, it actually works for that too. So when they have an opening, they will make sure that you're right. They know
Yeah.
who you are. You become a known commodity.
I know you're going to go somewhere else with this, dude. I know you were going to talk. Because I was waiting for Ian because I did want the AI stuff. I thought we were going to. I want to know how that's affected. I want to know because we talk about that, and I went to my civilian career went a different route. I had nothing to do. I thought contracting, I guess, was a civilian career, but went completely the other direction with just normal business. I said the insurance industry, and the HR, it is. It's very, very tailored to what you're working for, and it wasn't. they didn't give a shit that you got your Ranger tab. What's that? You know,
Yeah.
it's like, you were in charge of a weapon system. Really? Well, are you going to come shoot up the? That's how it
Yeah.
works. So getting it tailored to say the right thing to a normal person was difficult enough. What do you need to do then if it is to an AI and they're using AI? How do you need to write? Because
Use AI against them. Use
okay,
AI. I just gave and I love, man, I'll talk about this all day long. So if you are a university or a professional society or something, and I'm going to talk about it, it's free. Bro. I mean, I price these things pretty much at cost. I mean, I think $16 on Amazon. I think really, I'm gonna lose money on this thing because I think the profit margin is like 36 cents. It's like some crazy thing. So anyway, I tell people use AI to write your cover letters, use AI to write your resume. And nowadays I use Claude AI. So you have ChatGPT is a big one, but I've been using Claude, and it's pretty solid. I haven't checked out what Elon's got going on with this Gronk, something like that.
Grok, yeah. You know what's funny? I know of all these only because of my job with Nidus, but to my boss Adam's embarrassment, I guess, I have never used AI for anything. And I know Adam is always like, you need to use AI. It's
Mm-hmm.
like it's going to help you in no matter what you're doing.
Well,
But I think it's just I got to be honest, I hate the whole concept of AI. And I know it's not going away, and I know it's adapt or die as Gary Vee would say, but I guess it's because this is what I do. I like speaking with people. I like learning insights on people. And the whole idea of this being replaced by AI is just, it's so lame to me, man. Even just when like as a YouTube creator, right? Because I have my new channel, Ian Scotto Rocks, and I watch so much stuff on YouTube, and I notice. And I mentioned that channel because, like, with some of the rock content, I go, wait, people are making videos about the exact same topic, probably because
mm-hmm.
AI said, like, this is a great topic. And it's like when I did a recent video that's at 22,000 views about Mark St. John of Kiss, it's because I thought Mark St. John of Kiss is an interesting topic. He's a guy who was in like one of the biggest bands for like 6 months or something. And that's like my own creativity, right? I didn't type into a system what video is going to get me views. And I do hate the fact that this is now impacting everything. And just as I
Well,
guess a creative, I guess you would say that's kind of what I am, right? I'm not like a door kicker like Chris or anything. Like I do take pride in that, and I do hate the fact now that it's just everyone can, I guess, portray themselves as a creative because the AI can do the work for them, and I'm not a fan of it, even though I know it's not going away, and I know it's not a bubble, and I know it's going to help a lot of people with their jobs, but I'm a dinosaur. As Chris knows, I still send physical checks, as I was saying. I'm like from the 1980s.
well, listen, what AI is going to have to do is, so if you're a writer, and I talked because with the podcast, the Protectors podcast, by the way, the
Yeah,
only
check it out.
trademarked and registered Protectors podcast. And I have to say that because when you Google Protectors podcast, you're going to come up with two interesting people. So
Really? I
anyway,
didn't know that. Okay, I
I didn't
thought
know
just
that.
you.
that's why I
Yeah.
had to get a trademark. That's why I always put the register
Well, there
symbol on
are
everything.
people could see after we did our show. There is a certain Army veteran who put out the Battleground
Oh,
podcast.
They
okay.
tried to, and he tried to do the battle line, and I got a trademark too. Yeah,
Yeah.
I had to go get it registered.
And even with the trademark and that, they still doing their thing. But I don't have money for a lawyer, but that's another day. So, so with the podcast, I talked to a ton of authors, a lot of fiction authors, and they told me, they're like, look, AI is killing it. People are gonna be writing books with AI,
I
and
think
that's
they are. I think they
yeah,
are already. Like I think there's people who just put their name on the book,
mm-hmm,
and AI is writing the book,
yeah.
which is like, dude, I don't like. I
Well,
genuinely don't like this. Like
but
I know
technically,
it's not going away. So
yeah,
I don't know what. I don't have a solution. I don't think there is one. I just don't like the current technology.
I have your solution right here. You have to have a human element in everything you do. So we're podcasting, which is perfect. You can't AI a podcast. I mean, you
You
probably could,
can. I mean,
you can,
there's
but it's
AI
not
Joe
going to be
Rogans
authentic.
of like Joe Rogan interviewing Jimi Hendrix, and
Yeah, but the reality is, if people want to see authentic content, that's why, like, when I write a lot of stuff now, I try to get actual input from humans, like quotes. I want quotes from people.
Yeah.
When you write nonfiction, you need to have it vetted. You need to have people's input. When you're being a creative, you have to have the human element around it. And I think the next wave is you're going to have AI books, but you're also going to have books with actual quotes and actual discussion with real people.
What about, well, we're talking about transitioning. Okay, resumes then.
Mhm.
AI resumes.
Yeah,
HR's
absolutely.
HR's validating. They're trying to validate these resumes with AI, but how does it? How's that going to affect the
Because you're
workplace? Because now you're getting people that may not be what they're saying they are. Maybe remember when we used to embellish our resumes a little bit
Mhm.
by using power words, maybe adding a year. Isn't that essentially what we're doing with AI? Is an AI going to embellish our resumes a bit just to get hired because they're utilizing AI to look? It's like a never-ending cycle. I'm
Yeah.
kind of like with Ian. It's like, dude, this is a vicious cycle.
Well, you know what? The same people who embellish their resumes will always embellish their resumes. They're the
Okay.
same people. And when you
And I
do
mean,
with
it's
a
on you also to read what you put out there. I mean, actually, it's not out yet because of the Harold situation, who also edits stuff for Nidus. But Adam, at Nidus recorded a whole podcast about people basically cheating with AI. And Adam uses AI for everything, but he's just like, you got to go over and do the work and look over everything, because he's like, I get sent stuff all the time and I can tell you right away, oh, this person didn't do shit. They just threw it into AI, because he's a coder and he's like,
Mhm.
I use AI for my coding, but then I go back and have to look over everything and make sure it got everything right. And he's like, there's people who are just doing everything through AI and I'm able to spot it. But then again, the AI is going to keep getting better and better and better. And it's going to be harder to detect what is AI and what isn't AI. And I really do feel like we're in a real life Terminator film right now, man. I don't like it once again.
Well, with my resume, like if I'm putting it for jobs, and I'm always looking around, for my next dream job, because I'd like to travel, so I need money. I like to go to University of Nebraska, Omaha, and see
That's the
concerts and
yeah.
everything.
That's the mecca. That's where the traveling. You've reached the pinnacle of your travels.
But
Right.
the thing is, so I have 30 years worth of experience, and I have to put that into 3 or 4 pages. When I'm using AI to make my resume, is I'll use my main. I have a resume that's like 10 pages, and I'll just cut and paste it and put in there and say, I'm
Okay.
applying for this job, change it. Because the big thing is I'm not embellishing anything. I'm just using my own experience.
And you're tailoring it, and
Yeah.
that is important, and that's why the book, like I said, the pivot, I think, is extremely important for anybody that's transitioning. Because to be quite honest, again, just even skimming through it, and I did like I did get into the resume chapter, because that's where I always had the biggest problem, was the resume chapter when was resumes when I was coming out of the service, because I didn't know what they were looking for, and what I did being an Army Ranger was cool as shit. But to somebody that sits in a cubicle or 9 to 5 all day, like somebody from Mutual of Omaha, they don't care. I mean, it's cool. The Army thing is cool, but do they understand half of it?
No.
No, and that is where I had to learn the hard way. And I have the same. I have 5 different resumes, old resumes on my computer that I've used tailored to different things. But that's what I had to learn over 10 years. And I think that's what's important with Pivot, is that for those that are getting out, and I get questions from kids all the time, what do I do when I'm getting out of the military? How do I write my resume? I don't have a good answer for them. It's like, man, I give you an answer, but it's something I learned over 20 years. I'm just going to tell them, go get your book and go read that. That's going to
Yeah.
tell you exactly, it's going to tell you what power words to use. It's going to tell you how to reword things. So you don't say, I managed machine guns and M4. I had responsibility for $100,000 worth of equipment. It's putting those things there that you're putting it into words that are understandable, that are still impressive, and that are not intimidating, and again, that are understandable from the military verbiage to the civilian verbiage. And that's why the AI stuff with the end. Like, I don't know if I want to do that, because I
Yeah.
don't know the AI, but maybe the AI can do that. I'm not a big AI fan yet. I don't use it for anything yet. Maybe I will, and maybe I'm underselling it, but I don't know much about it because I'm scared of it. I'm a
You
caveman.
know, it's well, that's why I like the thing about the book too, is you could write, if you don't want to use AI, you could write it. And this is like this, the book covers everything, even the post interview. A lot of people never follow up. And even if you don't get the job, what to do
That's
next.
excellent. Yeah,
Believe me,
that's
I try to get everything possible in here.
and that's important, guys. Stuff you don't know and stuff that I didn't know as a kid when I got out. Uh, How do you get hired? Why am I not getting hired? Well, it's not
Hmm.
because they're not impressed. Because people forget. They don't remember
Yeah.
you. Did you follow up? Maybe they're wanting to see that follow up. And I know as a hirer now, as a manager now, like this guy, this guy. Okay, who's gonna give me that call back? Who's gonna actually seem interested?
Hmm.
That's the one. Who's gonna go that extra little bit? You don't know that. You don't know that coming out,
No.
and until somebody tells you.
If you interview 30 people, can you remember it really? I mean, but then
No,
if someone says emails you afterwards, and I always followed up with emails. Not that it ever got me the job, my dream jobs, but I always did it. And
you.
nowadays you really have to, because me, I recognize that. So
Yeah.
when you're a hiring manager, you send your best qualified, the people that you want your boss to hire, and then you hope that they hire them. And that's when the phone calls come in. That's when your network comes in, because then your network, it's so key. Like if I was going to go work for the Mutual of Omaha, I would go to LinkedIn. Who am I connected to? And I wouldn't have just hit them up now. I would have been building these relationships. It's OSINT, brother. Open source information. Find out who
So,
works at your dream company and start friending everybody around it, and not just hit them up with information. Anybody knows they get on LinkedIn, and you anybody that has financial in their title, it within 2 days will be asking you about some to help you with your finances. Now you got to build relationships. It's marketing. You have to market yourself.
do
Yeah.
you still think that it's important to get out there and I speak at a lot of conventions. Majority of these conventions are networking
Mhm.
conventions. There, and I do government. I do private.
Yeah.
Are I personally myself, if I'm not speaking at a convention, I ain't going to. No, I don't want that. Don't leave. I just leave me alone. But how important are they to go to and to build those networks, not just on social media, but those face-to-face networks? And some of those conventions are in really cool places. They're fun. I mean,
Yeah.
Charleston, South Carolina. They're down in Orlando. I'd want to say
Hmm.
now I got one coming up in Bismarck, North Dakota in January. I don't know why, but whatever, man.
I think with the
Each his own.
conventions, I think, and all just as well as I do, SHOT Show is not a good convention to go to
No,
network.
no, no, no. That's not
But
important.
no, but what I'm talking about is like I've met so many people through do like training, going to conferences
Yeah.
like that where you actually do the breakout. Not where you just all sit
The
in the
breakout
booth.
sessions. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And the networking part, people think networking is going to the bar afterwards. And not, most of the people that do that, most of the people who make decisions, man, they're exhausted from talking all day. They're back in their room, they're going to a dinner or something like that. They're not hammering it up at the bar. Yeah,
No,
some of them are. But like when you do these breakout sessions, or you go to training, and we're not talking tactical training, we're talking like within that field,
yeah.
that's where you build relationships with people. And that's where you may not necessarily be with the dream job you want, but you might be with someone who knows someone. So you build these relationships and you keep them going. And that includes doing the follow-up check-ins every once in a while. Like, hey, bro, what's going on?
Yeah,
Yeah.
no,
No, that's well said,
that's
man.
a
I
great
do I
answer.
do think in-person stuff is important. And one thing I wanted to say, so like with this book, as you said, with the profit margins and everything, this is really more of something you're doing as a service, something more you want to help out other veterans who are transitioning to civilian life. Of course, you still do the Protectors podcast, which has been around just about as long as we've done our podcast. For the audience, do you want to update people on what you're up to now? Because, like I said, the last time we
Yeah,
spoke
sure.
was probably like 2, 3 years ago. I don't even think I was in this
Yeah.
apartment. It's been a long time. So, if
I
people
mean,
are
I can.
wondering what you're up to now, you can get into it.
Well, let me look here real quick. So I have the Protectors Foundation. I'm still doing that right now. I'm on a little break, and I did come out to Nebraska. I went out to Oakland, Nebraska.
Yeah.
Chris isn't in Nebraska
Well,
anymore, though. So,
I'm down in Kansas now. We got out of there because all you East Coasters and started coming back
Uh-huh.
in to visit. So we
I
were like,
have no
I'm out.
interest in moving to Nebraska if you're
I'm
talking
out.
about
I'm out.
me.
There's the Oakland, Nebraska, and a Oakland, Iowa. I know them both very well. I'm not that far. I'm in Kansas. I'm
That's
just
that.
a few
Well,
hours south. Still Midwestern.
a ton of friends in local government, local police officers, and being a Fed, it's like, hey, you want a brand new something? It's like, yeah, we'll get it. But I've run into so many people over the years who are getting like 13, $14 an hour, or I've known people who've known them. And when you're working as a deputy or a cop,
Yeah.
you're making 13, $14 an hour. You can't afford gear. You can't afford training.
Yeah.
Your qualification is once a year, 50 rounds, if that. Nobody's sending you to any specialized school. So what I did, 2023, I started the Protectors Foundation, and you don't see me advertising a lot on social media because I'm very hesitant to support any nonprofits anymore. Because if you go to the IRS and you look at the tax returns for a lot of these nonprofits out there, and I'm not going to throw anyone under the bus, but you look up
Yeah.
any main one out there and you look up operational costs, if you're taking in $2 million and $1.8 million is internal, then you are fucked. You're stupid and
Yeah.
I hate you. And you're finding out people are making, they're pulling in, for one, the president and vice president. They're taking these titles, and then what they're doing is they're taking $125,000 a year salary. But then you look at their travel costs, and their travel costs are like 80, 90,000, conferences and this and that. And you're like, these people they're living a gravy train. There was a very, very popular one years ago, and I'm not going to talk about them. The main people, and you can look at it, pick a charity, go online, look up IRS, look up search name, and you'll figure out their tax returns. $499,000 a year was their salary, them and their wife. I'm like, you can't make it up, bro.
Wait,
So what I do,
they're making half a million. Are
bro,
you shitting
you
me?
can't make it up. So what I
Wow.
do with this, whenever I raise money for the Protectors Foundation, I usually ask companies, and once in a while I'll get some really nice people that, hey, here's 50, 60, $100. And I hate taking money from people, man. If you were a business or something, I'll gladly take your money because I guarantee you 100% is going straight to what I'm doing. And what I'm doing is I'm buying tourniquets. So I went out to Oakland. I brought 10 tourniquets with me, 3 officers in Oakland. And Oakland's what, 30, 40, 50 minutes from the major anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then when I was out there, the mayor of the town was there, who happened to be also the chief of police of the next town over. But I thought about their school. And I'm like, if there was an active assailant event, even if it was a knife or whatever, and they had to, save kids, and they have no tourniquets, and then I got to get life flights and this and that. So I donated 10 tourniquets to them. I'm doing nickel and dime with it. I'm trying to get as many tourniquets out there as possible.
The
I've been in,
rural towns suffer, dude. They don't have the budgets.
no,
I train. There's a local department here. I just talked to the chief. I'm like, hey, I send your guys to me whenever I have a class. They come. They come for free,
mhm. Well,
and and that's what I do. Yeah, because they don't have a budget. And I don't care. Come on, man. Because you're the school. I spoke at their school once. Just went out there to talk to their kids, and I'm like, man. You don't have to do anything. Now, Chief, he's a good man. His name Chief Bill Downey. Awesome guy. He's like, man, when we have a budget, I'll pass it. Chief, you don't need to pay me. But I don't
yeah,
want to take your money. You need it. And he always tries to, and he's going to try to again. I know he will. But it's those things. It's those little rural law enforcement communities. They don't have, which is horse shit. Because what do tourniquets cost? They don't cost nothing.
nah,
You know,
20
coming.
bucks, 20, 20, $30. I get them at the whatever. I'm not even getting a discount really. I get like $22, but they go for 30 something.
Yeah.
And whenever you see generous donation, typically it's just me. I hate taking money from people, man. But the other thing I did was I've been sponsoring a lot of different training events for people. But that's the reason I went to work for the Capitol Police, is because I was a firearms instructor for years, civilian wise. But I wanted to get the federal background. I wanted to teach uniforms. So I told myself I'm going to go in there and work for 6 months, and I did. I did I did everyday quals, and I did taught classes on like a bunch of different crap. I did the new agent training or new officer training for a week down to Fletzy, Cheltenham. Did some M4 training, but I wanted to get an idea of what that was like so I could use it to go out and start giving classes. So this year I will start giving free training to LEOs. I definitely come down there with you, brother. I love going out
Yeah.
there.
Whenever you have just we bring in instructors, love it, and it's we keep it. It's very small. We don't. I don't want to promote a ton,
No.
but we'll have like guys like yourself. Come on in, we'll teach, and it's like a surprise instructor. Like come on,
Mm-hmm.
and some of the guys I guarantee you'll know who you are, and that's all. I'll bring a guy in, a buddy. Like, holy shit, I follow this guy. Yeah, he's just coming to
Hmm.
hang out. Then we throw you at a house. We got a nice house that we'll throw you in down there. And everybody doesn't want to leave, especially during that time because it's
I have,
rural.
bro, I'm on the way. We're done. I'm there next time.
They would love it, and it loves because I can get like, dude, you got it for 2 hours. I want to go chillax for a little
Yeah,
while.
exactly, man. I
And
would
take the
love it. I would
sponsors.
love to do that, man. I would
Yeah,
love it. I love it. The other thing I'm doing is, well, we have the Protectors podcast. We just hit 520 episodes. I've changed the
wow,
format this year.
nice.
It's going to be long form like this. It's going to be over an hour. I'm going to try to, and then I'll have short ones where it's
Our version of long form, not Sean Ryan version of
no,
like
no, no,
five
no.
hour long
It's this
form.
is long form to me is like anything over 50 minutes.
I
It's like,
agree. I feel like that's the sweet spot. I feel like
yes,
anything under 2 hours is the sweet spot.
Hey, I
What
talked
do
a
I?
lot. What do you want me to do,
Well, I
dude?
was
I
just gonna
just
say what do I know though? Because Sean Ryan is getting millions of listens, but I don't know. Maybe I just don't have the attention span to
you
listen for
know,
5 hours.
there's I don't either. I break it down. I'm a big Theo Vaughn man. I listen to that dude all day long.
I do love a lot of the comedy podcasts, but you know
I
what? I
get it
want
in
to
a
say
sense.
before I forget what you're saying about the charity organizations resonates with me so much. I mentioned it on previous podcasts, so people might hear me repeating myself. But Mike Schlitz, who's come on with us, Army Ranger, lost both his arms in combat, burned his legs, face burned. I mean, most of his
yeah.
body burned. I met Mike at a charity event for an organization, which I'm not going to say the name, much like yourself, because I'm not looking to get sued. But basically, I mean, it's a charity organization related to 9/11, and you see them advertising on Fox News all the time. It wouldn't be hard to
Uh,
find out who I'm talking about. One of the guys who runs the organization has a relative who died in 9/11. You kind of come to find out he doesn't have a real job. Since then, his job is basically
uh-huh.
using his brother's death to promote this organization. So, long story short, they were supposed to build a smart home for Mike Schlitz, and they never did.
Oh,
And the Gary Sinise Foundation, who I will say, because
oh
they
hell
are a
yeah! I'll
great
talk about him all day
organization,
long.
Gary Sinise called Mike Schlitz and said, "I don't care this organization dropped the ball on building a smart home for you, and that the money didn't go to you. We're going to build a smart home for you." And the Gary Sinise Foundation stepped up. So just based on what I know from Mike Schlitz, I know the Gary Sinise Foundation is a great foundation, and Gallant Few because he does stuff for them. But I mean,
Yeah.
how many organizations do you see like that? And it is the big ones. It is the ones advertising all over TV because they just spend the budget advertising, they spend the budget on salaries, and they help some people who then they put on a commercial to say, "Look what they did for me." But what about all the guys you left behind? So
Yeah, and I the charity thing drives me nuts, man. Um, but yeah, podcast. I really want to be focused this year and doing a lot more writing. But here's the more important thing. So I have Apocalyptica plays Metallica Volume 2 tour coming up. I'm going to see
well, you're just saying
Disturbed.
you're going to it, or
Yeah, and then I
oh,
have
okay. I was like,
I
are you
have
involved in this?
listen, this is the important stuff here. We have Disturbed, the Sickness tour coming up. I'm doing that. I'm going to Kill Switch Engage,
They're great, man.
and then I'm going to Metallica again. So
Nice, nice. I've seen Kill Switch before. You know what's cool? So I live in New York. There are times I go to shows in Brooklyn, and Jesse from Kill Switch is just there as a fan. Like he regularly is a guy you'll just see at shows. I told Chris this I think like a year or so ago. I saw Violent J from ICP from
Yeah.
Insane Clown Posse, and Jesse from Kill Switch are just in the audience, just
oh,
hanging
that's
out,
awesome,
having a
man.
good time. He's a good dude. I don't like personally know him, but he's always around this area. Yeah, Metallica I've seen so many times before,
Yeah,
and it's the continuation of this 30. What is it called? The 72 Seasons tour,
yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So are you going on? Because I know it's different openers. Are you going with like Pantera opening or Limp
Oh
Bizkit,
man, I
or
don't even know. I gotta look. I'm going to North Carolina for that one.
if you go to the date that Pantera's opening, like the current lineup of Pantera has been great. I mean, what Metallica's currently doing, for those who don't know, which is like amazing, I think, and they're one of the only bands that could do this, is they play 2 nights in the stadiums with different openers both nights and a completely different set both nights. So when
Mm-hmm.
I saw them, it was Pantera and Mammoth WVH, and then like half the songs are going to be the hits, half the songs are going to be deep cuts, but they don't play half the hits. So like if you're a real Metallica fan, it's a
Yeah.
treat. But when I was leaving, there are the kind of casual fans. I remember when I was leaving, it was like, Man, they didn't even play Enter Sandman because they're going to play Enter Sandman the
Yeah.
next night.
Uh-huh.
So they can't do because they. But how many bands could do that, man? No repeat song, no repeat
No, that are solid.
opener. It's pretty cool, man. If you're a diehard fan, it's cool. I guess if you're a casual fan, though, you might
Bro,
not be your
I
thing
saw him in
because
I
you
saw
might not hear
Injustice.
Enter Sandman. You might not hear For Whom the Bell Tolls. You might not hear Wherever I May Roam. You're only, it's kind of a crapshoot. You might hear one song from Saint Anger, but I dig it.
I saw them in Justice for All twice.
Wow. See,
And
I
then I
was
saw the
just
Black
born. I was
Album.
a baby.
Yeah. My first concert was Nuclear Assault.
Oh, wow. Danny Lilker.
I don't even remember, man, bro. I was like 8, 7, 16. I don't even know, 17.
Yeah.
Queensryche was good back
I
then.
love Queens.
Operation.
Have you seen current
Wow.
Queensryche?
I don't. I saw them back in Operation Mindcrime, bro.
Okay, so they have a new singer, but he's not really
Uh,
new. He's been there for like 10 years. He's really good, man. Really good. Todd Latore. I just, as Chris knows, I just got back from LA before all this craziness. I picked a good time to leave, I guess. But I went to go see, I went to a bunch of comedy shows. So I saw you're a comedy guy. I saw Tim Dillon. I saw
mm-hmm.
Nikki Glazer, Bobby Lee, Harlan Williams,
Oh
all on
wow.
different nights because they play that whole LA comedy scene. And then I went to one night I saw Faster Pussycat at the Whiskey.
Oh
I
yeah.
saw Stephen Piercy from Rat at the Whiskey, and then New Year's Eve, LA Guns. Dude, it was
L.A.
awesome.
Guns, man. Was
I
it
love
Diary of
LA Guns.
Jane?
They
Which one's
play the Whiskey in LA every New Year's Eve.
awesome, brother? Well,
And
you
they
guys are. I love this, man. Chris, what's going on with you, man? When's your next concert?
Nah, I got
Never.
nothing. Nah, I'm listening. I was like, man, Ian needs to have Jason on his rock show, dude. You
Yeah,
got,
he does talk music all
yeah,
day long.
yeah, you got. I'm being bored. I'm bored and I'm loving it. I'm bored. I'm norm. I just a normal, boring life at home with my kids and my wife, and I'm
But you did get
perfect.
back from vacation.
Make it like a normal family vacation. The
Yeah,
Griswolds on the road.
I love
Are
it.
you
Hey,
saying
kids,
going
Big
to
Ben.
LA to see Faster Pussycat is not normal?
That is what something I would have done 20 years ago. Now I just want to be with the family, and I want to be. And
Mm-hmm.
I bet my life has always been fitness, so I am my leg, everything's are healing up, and I'm working out. I'm not allowed to run for 6 months, but everything else I'm still doing, and so I'm just back to being like a normal just a normal dude, man. Just a normal dude home with the family and working out all the time and managing some insurance adjusters out there and sleeping and just no man, I this is what I envisioned when everything was done with the agency and everything was done where I now I'm still at awe I'm still in awe that Benghazi in 13 hours are still, I mean, it still gets me out there. I
Yeah.
still have to, I speak once a month. And so that's still, I thought that would have ended a while ago, but it hasn't. But really everything else is, buddy, it's where I want to be on a rocking chair on my front porch. I'm happy. They're like, what do you
Although
That's the
hide?
life,
not
bro.
this time of year. It's too
Oh,
freezing to
it's too
do.
damn cold. But
Yeah.
figuratively, on a
Yeah.
rocking chair inside my front porch, the windows out in the back, and then coming down to my gym at night and turn some TV on and working out while
Mm-hmm.
I'm watching TV, and that's where I want to be, man. And talking to you, doing a podcast one time an hour, and talking to you, and hey, Henry, I finally my knee healed up, and I got to take those Henrys out. They sent me some 44s.
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
nice. I forgot about that.
Oh, those things are freaking.
Yeah, I got the
Well,
44 too.
well, the last time we were on the show, you were in your
Yeah, I
other
called him
office.
up. I said, "Give me a Henry."
Oh, dude, they did. They sent it to me. And then I ripped my quad in half the week after.
Uh,
So I could, but I since I healed, I got it out there. Actually, was I work with the ballistic glass company here in town, and they're like, hey, they let we don't post it, but I get to go test their ballistic glass. So they'll bring it out to
oh,
my
I love
range,
it.
and I took that Henry out there, that 44, and yeah, it stopped the first couple, but yeah, that third one. But yeah, I'd shoot ballistic glass with my Henry. That I'm sure that if I was a social media freaking sycophant, then I probably would have put it on there. But I didn't. It just
Yeah,
it was just for them to test their glass. But it was cool to get out. So anyway, that's me in a nutshell. And I'm happy that you're looks like you're doing what you want to do now, and you're on your way. And seriously, I know we're pushing the book, and I know this is something that I could have used. I could have used. instead of trying to figure out the hard way, just the basics of how to write a resume, how to talk to during your interview, coming from the military and transitioning. And I know this is geared more towards like government jobs, but it still speaks to the civilian
Yeah.
and who you're going to be talking to. And it's huge, dude. It is. It's stuff like, man, and I had to learn. Somebody had to tell me to stop writing stuff like that. I go through 8 million interviews to figure that out. Where now just grab the book and just honestly just follow. You want to write a resume? Grab Jason's book, read it, and write your resume. Just like, there it is, your guideline right there, and it's perfect, dude. So anyway, man, that's all I got, and I'm just happy that I'm really happy that you're doing what you want to do. Town Hall is huge too. I didn't know you were writing that much for Town Hall. That used to be big for us as well. I used to write a lot for them. They would publish stuff, and you get a big following on Town Hall. It's huge. It's good stuff. So doing great things, and you're talking rock with Ian.
Gotta. Well, I appreciate you too, man. I do.
No, thank you, man. It's definitely good to catch up. It's been a long time, and we'll do it again soon. I know none of us are going to SHOT Show this year, but I'm sure I'll see you at something else. So once again, pick up the book, guys. Pivot: Insights from a Former Federal Hiring Contractor. Check out the Protectors podcast, and then also just at Dr. Jason Piccolo on Instagram and on X. We'll have all that in the description. And yeah, man, have a happy birthday. I know you said you're off to do Korean barbecue. I love Korean barbecue. I mean, I live right by Flushing, so I mean, if anybody who's been to Flushing knows, the signs are in Korean. It's Korean everything. So I definitely am a fan of the Korean barbecue. So that'll be a treat, I'm sure.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you guys. Thanks a lot.
Well, happy birthday, brother. Yeah.
That's all for this episode of Battle Line Podcast. But we're always posting new content on social media. Follow us on Instagram at Battle Line Podcast and on Twitter at Battle Line Pod. That's an order. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any new episodes up every Tuesday. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or your podcast platform of choice. Believe in yourself. Face all challenges head on. And as always, never quit.